What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today I wanted to showcase the two new Kyurem forms in PvP. This Pokemon is one of the most broken things they've ever added into Master League, and that's saying something because Master League is already a meta of broken Pokemon, but these take the cake. They're over 5,000 CP, they have some broken moves, some broken stats, and overall, an incredible typing. If you wanted to know what kind of Kyurem you should max out if you did not get a 15-15-15, which I know I only got one of myself, so it is a little bit annoying. There are a couple of spreads which definitely still work out. The 15-15-14 and the 15-14-15, basically the 98% spreads here with the 15 attack stat still are enough to work out in most matchups. The main thing that you end up losing out on not having the perfect Kyurem of either Kyurem White or Kyurem Black is you end up losing out the Zero Shield matchup against opposing Kyurem Black. It is a little bit of a trade-off if you don't end up having that perfect Pokemon, but because I didn't have one myself, I have this shiny 98% Kyurem White that I'm using. Just to keep that in mind, maybe don't play out the Zero Shield matchup against Kyurem Blacks if you end up not having the perfect, but overall, this Pokemon is very powerful, and it is still very much worth it to power up. Without further ado, let's get into the battles and see just how insane these two Kyurem forms are. All right, let's get into the first match of the day. These battles are against viewers live on my Twitch stream, so if you want to take part in battles like this in the future, make sure to follow me there, twitch.tv/ItsAXN. First lead of the day up against a Necrozma, exactly what I want to see as a Shadow Claw user into a Psychic-type Pokemon, but we see a Palkia safe swap, a Pokemon I don't have a hard answer to here, so I do counter swap with my Shadow Rhyperior. I know that these breaking steps will add up over time. It might debuff their attack stat, and potentially will one-shot them if they so Shadow Rhyperior throws the Breaking Swipe. We get a shield, but I was a bit slow on the swap, so I'm not quite sure if we can outpace it. Doesn't look like it actually here, which means Palkia will win the two-shield matchup because I was so slow on this counter swap. Aqua Tail does end up drawing our shield. In comes a Breaking Swipe, and let's see if our opponent shields this move up or not. Breaking Swipe comes through. Our opponent is going to let it go, so we keep switch advantage, but at what cost? Your opponent likely is going to be able to one-shot our Kyurem in the backline with a Sunsteel Strike if they do have that move. In comes their own Kyurem. This is looking pretty scary. Kyurem up shields, or at least up energy, is a very scary Pokemon to try to face. In comes a shield here. I'm going to try to reach for another Breaking Swipe. Our opponent is going to make a fantastic catch on their Necrozma. They have a ton of energy on Kyurem. They're going to be able to absorb all of this energy here as well. And I'm going to try our best here with Landorus to get to a Sandstream Storm and potentially knock out this Pokemon. I get the attack drop with that Breaking Swipe, but because this Pokemon is so squishy with our Landorus here, you'll still take quite a bit of damage, although that is not a Sunsteel. It is only going to be a Dark Pulse. We survive that pretty easily. We're going to overfarm, go for a Sandstream Storm, and try to knock out this Pokemon. Sandstream should be enough from this range to knock out the Steel-type Pokemon, but in comes the Kyurem. I'm going to try to go for a Stone Edge, but our opponent throws a move on CMP. At this point, I know we do get knocked out here. Maybe I should have gone for a Sandsear a second ago. If I did, I might have been able to easily win this game with fast food pressure, but now I don't know how much damage does a Kyurem do to an opposing Kyurem. We did not debuff their attack stat. Surely we survive this. It's neutral. No, we basically get one shot by that move. All I can reach right now is a Fusion Bolt, and at the time, I had no idea that we could get debuff with our attack stat. I should have cleared this debuff. This is looking terrible for us right now. A debuff Fusion Bolt, not enough to knock them out, and we end up losing the end game there. GG's for our opponent. Next matchup, Kyurem up against an Incineroar. All right, well, this is a weird matchup. Honestly, it's not that great for us, right? Fire Fang is going to do quite a bit of neutral damage to us here, and our opponent going to counter swap with a Zygarde. So a bit of spice, but a bit of hard meta from them as well. In comes a Sandsear Storm. I'm going to try my best to debuff them, make it so I can get a farm down later on this game, and potentially win with fast move and charge with pressure later on. Zygarde is a very boring Pokemon to try to take down. We need 4 Sandsear Storms plus the Mudshot damage to take this Pokemon out. And because we are getting these debuffs, it's going to make them do a lot less damage, but they've already done quite a bit of damage just with these Dragon Tails. This could be an Outrage, it could be a Crunch. I'm going to no-shield one way or another here. I know that we have an Ice-type Pokemon with Ice Fang that can easily farm this down, so we're going to no-shield, and it is just going to be a Crunch. In comes the Sandsear Storm. Our opponent going to no-shield once again, knowing just how bulky this Zygarde is. I'm going to no-shield myself here and go for a full farm down with either my Dialga or with my Kyurem. I get defense dropped. It doesn't really matter. One Dragon Tail would knock us out one way or another there. I come in with our Dialga, and our opponent actually hard pivots out here to their Incineroar. This is not exactly the best matchup for me to be in, but it's better than against my Kyurem, because I know that Kyurem would not be doing too much damage with these resisted Ice Fangs. Blast Burn ends up landing, honestly, doing a substantial amount of damage here, despite not being one of the best Pokemon in the Master League. This Pokemon is putting in a lot of work against us, and comes the Iron Head. We actually get a shield here with Dialga, and if we're lucky, we're going to be able to survive long enough to force him to throw a second charge move. Incineroar does not have any bait moves, so it's likely going to be a Blast Burn once again here. It will knock us out, but I'm going to try to Ice Fang down. Honestly, our Ice Fangs are doing a bit more damage here than the Fire Fangs from this Incineroar, so potentially I could have just stayed in that lead matchup. of course, a Kyurem in the backline from our opponent. I have an energy lead. We just have to watch where I catch this game. As long as they don't catch on us, we should be able to win this one. I'm at 100 energy right now. Fusion Flare is going to come through. Our opponent could shield this up if they want to try to survive and make a catch in a second, which they do try to catch instantly, but I go for a full Ice Fang down. And now we have an Ice Burn ready to go and knocking out this opposing Kyurem. A very interesting team, very spicy in the lead there, but two very hard meta Pokemon in the backline, barely able to overcome it there. All right, Melmetal in the lead in this next game up against a Zacian. This is a very good lead. I am likely running the double Iron Bash moveset right now. Yeah, it is going to be super effective damage, but unfortunately, double Iron Bash, not the strongest move out there. I'm sure Zacian can survive two of these pretty easily unless they debuff their defense with either Close Combat or Wild Charge. Yeah, unfortunately, not quite enough to put them into the yellow HP quite yet. These Thunder Shocks are adding up and putting them into range where over time, two would be enough. But in the Zero Shield matchup, they can survive and make it so I am not able to knock them out. They actually make a nice catch on and annihilate here. Fantastic spice from our opponent right now. Very happy to avoid this with our Kyurem right now. And our Shadow Palkia, or Palkia can come into this Shadow Annihilate rather, and try its best to win this matchup. That's actually a Hundo Shadow Annihilate. A very cool flex from our opponent right here. Aquatail comes through. It gets a shield and our opponent throwing a Rage Fist against us. At this point, I'm going to no-shield. Let's try to reach another Aquatail and get a shield advantage for our Kyurem in the backline. Rage Fist is going to boost their attack stat, but obviously because this is Master League, we are able to survive these fast moves just a little bit easier than we would in Great League with a Shadow Annihilate. Aquatail once again going to be thrown. Our opponent lets it go, and what is their final Pokemon going to be? Or do they even bring in their final Pokemon? They could bring in that Zacian once again if they want to start building up energy, but no, they bring in a Kyurem. This is actually one of the shiny Kyurem Blacks here. I have a shiny Kyurem White. I think the shiny Kyurem Black looks a lot cooler. These green, like, electrical effects on the back of it, it just looks so cool. Way cooler than whatever the shiny looks like here with the Kyurem White. But I think in general, if you have a perfect, go for the perfect Kyurem Black. This is actually a Shundo. I'm looking at the CP here. It is going to be that 15-15-15 Kyurem Black from our opponent. But because we have a shield advantage, we can go for a full Ice Fang down potentially against this. And if they ever bring in that Zacian, I can reach for a charge move, knocking them out before they can reach a close combat against us. Another charge move is going to be reached here from Kyurem. Fusion Bolt is going to be a nice bait from them, but if I ever see that Zacian come in, I'm going to instantly throw a charge move, knowing that I need to get this out of the way. They're close to another close combat right now. I'm going to throw the Ice Burn, knocking out this Zacian here, and they reach a charge move. What's it going to be? I'm hoping at this point it's just going to be a Fusion Bolt. Our opponent is not quite yet at the Freeze Shock. We're able to survive and Ice Fang them all the way down. All right, next matchup, Kyurem in the lead up against a Necrozma, a very interesting Pokemon to see. Obviously, it has a lot of high energy charge moves here, which means it's not going to be able to go for a lot of cheat moves and bait us. But because we're not using a lot of cheat moves ourselves and Ice Fang is not the highest energy generation attack, it's going to be mainly fast food pressure that's going to work our way through this matchup. Fusion Flare comes through. It gets a shield from our opponent. This could be a Moongeist Beam. I'm going to shield it up just in case they would want to one-shot us here. But it is going to be a Dark Pulse bait. Good bait by them. And they come in with a Dialga in the backline. This Pokemon obviously is going to be hard responded to by this Landorus, but our opponent might go for an Iron Head and survive this move and potentially get a shield from us. I go for an undercharge. Maybe I should have gone for a bit more of an undercharge, actually, because if I did, I could get a lot more of an energy lead for the backline. Iron Head is going to make us shield, and now we get a full farm down and have a ton of energy here on our Landorus. We actually see the Necrozma come back in. I'm going to go for the Stone Edge because I think they might try to no-shield the Sandsear Storm, knowing it is not quite enough to knock out. Stone Edge is going to come through, and our opponent is going to very smartly shield that attack up. I can't quite yet reach my next move. They are on point with their accounts here, and at this point, I don't use the Sandsear. They are not debuffed, and they actually have quite a bit of energy after throwing two Dark Pulses. They might be able to Moongeist Beam here against my Kyurem. With that said, I have a Zero Shield matchup with Dialga in the backline. Normally, that's going to be a good scenario for a Pokemon like this in Master League. We have Roar of Time if we need it, and it's going to be their own Kyurem in the backline. This is a good matchup, right? We have Dragon-type super effective pressure. Ice is also weak to Steel, and we should survive whatever attacks they're going to throw, right? Let's see, how much damage is this going to do? Free Shock basically one-shots our Origin form Dialga. That is ridiculous. I don't think we can survive the Shadow Claws now to win this endgame against this Necrozma, and unfortunately, somehow we lose the endgame there despite having a very good matchup in the back just because of how broken these moves are. All right, next game we're going to see a bit of a bad lead, Xerneas into this Necrozma. I'm going to instantly swap out here to our Palkia and see what our opponent wants to do. I think that might have just been a Dark Pulse that they're going to throw here. We can easily no-shield this knowing it's not an Outrage. That was only 7 Shadow Claws. And then they bring in a very spicy Pokemon, a Virizion, although this is not the best case scenario because we can't go for Aqua Tails against this. We have to go for full-on spatial rend, our opponent likely going to shield this up and use this energy lead to their advantage. I'm at the next move in just a second here. I could shield this up if I want to get a shield from them, but I'm going to no shield at this point. Take that shield advantage for our Kyurem in the backline, knowing that normally Kyurem up a shield should be in a very good spot. We get denied a turn, unfortunately, here with this double kick. We lag to turn on entry, which means no extra Geomancy for us. We're down one fast move of energy, which isn't going to be the worst thing in this matchup, but it will potentially mess us up later on this game. Our opponent is going to throw a Leaf Blade here. It's going to do quite a bit of chip damage to us here, and our opponent is going to try their best here. Unfortunately, I was going to go for the Moonblast against the Parisian. I don't know why I threw this one. I saw that the Necrozma came back in. I should have gone for a close combat. Even still, I guess now I can swap out and go for a Shadow Claw down, but a bit of a misplay by me. My brain was just not working in the moment there. We can go for a one shield farm down against his Steel type Pokemon and come out with a ton of energy for that Parisian and whatever else might be in the back. Our opponent at this point taking a second to decide what they want to bring in. We have a Fusion Bolt ready to go. This is a bait at this point. It is the cheaper charge move. I don't think it would be quite enough to knock out, but luckily we do get the shield here, meaning our opponent might be a little bit weak here to cure him in the backline. I honestly have no idea how much damage I would take from his Sacred Sword. I'm going to shield this up so I don't have to find out and potentially lose this endgame matchup. But our opponent has a Zamazenta in the backline. How much damage do you think an Ice Burn is going to do to this Pokemon? We throw it nearly one-shots that Pokemon is not even squishy. Kyurem is just stupid. We can CMP this attack on their next charge move, and now at this point, we should close out this endgame with our Xerneas. We know that this Virizion, though, does have a bit of energy, and we are in range where a Sacred Sword could knock us out, so we're just going to play it safe, catch the Sacred Sword, and now we're going to be able to survive this move, get to a close combat, and we should be able to win this game. Even if they have a Leaf Blade right now, I'm very close to a charge move on our Kyurem. Kyurem is putting in way too much work. I don't know why these moves are as strong as they are, but it just goes to show if you don't have these Pokemon right now, it could be a little bit unfortunate. All right, Kyurem in the lead up against a Dragonite. Honestly, with the team I'm using right now, that is a bit of a tricky Pokemon to see here. We have almost no fast food pressure into this Pokemon and two ground types in the backline. Don't really want to take on a flying type Pokemon. I guess the good thing though is this is a Dragon Tail using Dragonite, which means they cannot catch our moves if they want to. Here, I can always guarantee that I can throw a charge move in the middle of a Dragon Tail. In comes a Fusion Bolt. Our opponent gonna let it go, and I'm gonna try our best here to farm them all the way down before they can get to another charge attack. Thankfully, we are able to farm them down right before the next Dragon Claw is going to be reached, so we have a bit of energy, and we see a second Dragonite coming through. One of the only things that you could see here in battles against friends. I know that the second Dragonite, despite not being the best Pokemon in the Master League meta, is going to put in quite a bit of work against us here. I can go for Stone Edges potentially and use a shield advantage with a Shadow Rhyperior to win this endgame in the backline, depending on what the final Pokemon is going to be. At this point, I have to assume it's three Dragonites. If that is the case, this could be a little bit tricky here. In comes a Stone Edge, and at this point, they do shield it up. They're at another move right now, so I have to no-shield this, save that shield for a Shadow Rhyperior. A Superpower would do way too much damage to us, and then try to get to two Rock Wreckers, one against this Dragonite, one against the final Dragonite, and hopefully we can win this game. Uh, what is this? A Primal Groudon? This is such a scary Pokemon to see, actually. These Mud Shots have put us well below half HP at this point, but I think as long as we shield up like Precipice Blades, I should be able to get to two back-to-back Rock Wreckers, one for this Primal Groudon and one for that Dragonite. That was honestly a very crazy Pokemon to see in the backline. I thought for sure it'd be a Dragonite as the third Pokemon here, but a Primal Groudon trying its best to knock out our Ground-type Pokemon. Rock Wrecker, though, enough to barely take out both that Groudon and the Dragonite. They're a very spicy team from opponent. GG's to them. All right, next game, a Kyurem into Kyurem mirror matchup here. Ice Fang obviously is going to be neutral against this Ice and Dragon type Pokemon. Our opponent, though, is rocking the best buddy Kyurem. I can tell by the fact that their CP is so much higher than mine. They must have had a best buddy Kyurem before they ended up fusing this with this event. Fusion Flare going to come through. This is going to draw our shield, and now I'm going to go for a Fusion Flare of our own. I figured there wasn't really a reason to go for a CMP here in this matchup, knowing that since they are best buddy, I would lose that CMP one way or another. Our opponent is going to actually overcome themselves. I could have actually gone for the instant throw there if I wanted to. In comes a Fusion Flare. It's going to do a lot of damage. It's actually going to knock us out from that range. And now we can farm down with Dialga and hopefully have play in the backline. But our opponent making a fantastic move right here. They save a bit of HP on that Kyurem. At this point, I think that's all the HP they need if they want to be able to knock us out with Ice Fangs. Ice Fang would be doing so much damage against our rock or our ground and flying type Pokemon here, which means that we are in a very tricky spot. I can go for a Sandsear Storm though against this Necrozma. It should knock out at this point. It's a very strong attack from a very attack-weighted Pokemon. Necrozma goes down. I have back-to-back moves here. In comes the Kyurem. Unfortunately for them, they do lag a turn, but I'd be surprised if they wanted to shield this up anyway because they don't want to go down shields against Dialga, so they do let it go. And their own Dialga is in the backline. They have a ton of energy. They have a bit more energy lead than I do, but honestly, those mud shots that I got against this Dialga might actually come in clutch here because I think in the one shield matchup, two Iron Heads are not quite enough to knock me out, but they might be enough to knock out our opponent. Ironhead number one comes through against us. Ironhead is going to come through against our opponent here in just a second. They're likely going to have to shield this move up. If they no shield, I just tap my screen. If they do shield, I will have to throw another Ironhead. But I know at this point they're going to reach another attack in just a second here. But I know they didn't have enough of a lead where this would be a roar of time before I can get an Ironhead of my own. So it's just an Ironhead. We survive it, and we barely reach one of our own. Is this enough to knock out? I have to hope that it is. We are very low on HP. Dialga is throwing the Ironhead. It is enough to barely win that mirror matchup in the backline there to our opponent. All right, next game, Kyurem in the lead up against an Enamorus. That is, for this specific team, one of the worst things that I could possibly see here. We do have an Electric-type Charge Move and an Ice-type one as well, but because of the fact that we have, well, we're just completely outpaced here, I guess, it makes it so much worse. In comes a Fly. We make a nice catch on our Shadow Rhyperior, but the thing is, we have no fast pressure here, and we also have to keep in mind this thing has Grass Knot, right? It could one-shot us from this HP range, and we have to go for full-on Rock Wreckers if we ever want to knock this out, which is such an expensive charge move. We're going to straight send the Rock Wrecker at this point. Do they shield this? I would assume they do, but I don't want to risk the fact that I could go for Breaking Sight. They can no-shield that and put us even deeper into a hole. In comes another charge move from us here. It's likely going to be a Fly or a Grass Knot. Well, it'll be a Grass Knot right from our opponent right now. Let's see what they're going to throw. No, it is a Fly bait. Okay, they thought that might knock us out here. Thankfully, it does not, and they bring in their Necrozma. Necrozma is not a Pokemon I'm too scared of at this point. I can use it actually as an opportunity to build up a bit more energy on our Kyurem and potentially use this energy against that Enamorus later on. We try to make another catch. It doesn't quite work out, but they still do throw energy against our Landorus. What move is it going to be? An Outrage actually comes through. It does a lot of damage, but not quite enough to one-shot us or put us into Shadow Claw downrange before we can reach a Sandsear Storm this point, though, I kind of just want to get a lot of energy on our Kyurem. I know Kyurem up energy is a very scary Pokemon. I'm going to fully undercharge that. And because this was a CMP, I know they're going to throw a charge move against us. They have to basically knock us out at this point. Ironhead, though, going to be a full undercharge from our opponent, so a very, very smart play. They have a full fly of energy, but because I know Kyurem's attack stat is through the roof, we win CMP over the Enamorus. Fusion Bolt will draw that shield, and now I think they are about 5 away from the next move, but I'm going to be safe. Throw after 4 Shadow Claws here, and use this energy to hopefully one-shot something in the back line. Shadow Claw not quite enough to knock this thing out before they can reach other fly, so we'll throw this Fusion Bolt and see what's going to happen. Comes the charge move. It will knock them out, obviously. No shields remaining on our opponent's side. What is their final Pokemon? Likely some sort of Kyurem. It is going to be that. It's going to be, unfortunately for us, the Kyurem that is going to be able to survive this and reach a charge move very soon after. Both Kyurems actually do have the same stats, but because Kyurem White reaches charge move so much slower, there would have been a chance, I guess, if it was the Ice Fang variant, that I could have won this game, but also the Ice Fangs would do so much more faster pressure against us. I'm not quite sure. Free Shock knocked us out, unfortunately, and we are able to barely lose that matchup. Our next game, a Mega Tyranitar here. Some of my viewers coming in a little bit spicier using some Megas. Obviously, Mega Master League was not able to happen this rotation, but that did not stop my viewers from trying out some of these cool picks. Mega Tyranitar, though, a very good lead for us. Obviously, we are a Fairy-type Pokemon. Although these Megas have insane stats, these Smackdowns have done so much damage to us. I'm going to shield up. A Stone Edge would do a ton of damage, but it is just a crunch bait. In comes to close combat, it's obviously going to be 4 times effective. They have to shield up this move, or they have to basically get one shot here. And in the backline, going to be a Kyurem coming in. I didn't see what form that was. Might be the Shadow Claw, might be an Ice Fang. It is going to be the Shadow Claw variant, actually, which means I think we can go in with our Palkia and try our best to whittle it down with our Dragon Breath Fasten Pressure. At this point, if this is going to be an Ice Burn, or a Free Shock, rather, this is going to make it so that's a lot of energy down the drain. I should be able to go for an Aqua Tail, but we ended up getting a debuff, actually, with our attack stat, which is not what we wanted to see here. That debuff might make it so I can't farm down. I had to throw this Aqua Tail instead. Aqua Tail going to knock out the Kyurem, and we'll see what's going to come in at this point. We have a lot of energy here across the board. Our opponent actually running a very interesting team, double Kyurems here with a Mega Tyranitar in the lead. I got lucky that I had Xerneas here to whittle down this whole team this game. If I didn't have this Pokemon, this would be such an impressive team to try to face. Luckily, we do have this close combat ready to go. It's not going to one-shot them, but it will do enough damage to put them to a range where we can either go for a Dragon Breath or a Shadow Claw down in the back. That Geomancy, not quite enough to knock them out here, but I can absorb the energy on our own Kyurem. Actually, they come in with that Tyranitar. We can still Shadow Claw this down because of how much attack stat we have here, and in comes their own Kyurem. We might even survive this attack. I think it would probably knock us out, though, if it is going to be an Ice Burn. In comes a Fusion Flare. We do survive. We Shadow Claw down, and we are able to barely beat the Mega Tyranitar double Kyurem team. Not exactly a team you'd see too often in the Go Battle. All right, next game here, we're going to see a Kyurem once again in the lead, a Kyurem White, which means they have Ice Fang as their fast move, and because of that, I know the fast move pressure isn't that big of a concern, but they have access to Fusion Flare, a super effective charge move, which could do quite a bit of work against us. I am a little bit worried at this point, though, that since we don't have access to superpower with our Melmetal right now, I was running the Thunderbolt moveset, it would not two-shot this Pokemon. So I'm going to swap out, try to catch the Fusion Flare, which we are able to do, and we end up baiting out this Zacian. Zacian obviously is a Pokemon that we really want to see with our Melmetal. Our Palkia, though, does not really want to see it, but we did bait this out, so we don't potentially have to deal with it as much with our other Dragon-type Pokemon. We have the White Kyurem in the back, which would have a decent matchup, but it wouldn't be that great. So Play Rough does knock us out, and our Melmetal should be able to whittle down this Pokemon. No, and double Iron Bash would be kind of close to knocking out. I don't know though if it would be quite enough here, so instead I'm going to shield this up, go for as much energy as I can. Wild Charge will come through from them, meaning that they are lowered in their defense stats, so this is going to guarantee that this double Iron Bash is enough to knock them out. Down goes the Zacian. What is going to come in here to absorb all of our energy? It could be that Kyurem, it could be whatever their final Pokemon is going to be. It is going to be Kyurem that comes back and we have super effective damage. I do wish I had superpower here. If I did, it would do a little bit more raw damage. And because Double Iron Bash is not quite enough knockout, I'm going to try to farm them down with our Kyurem, but their final Pokemon going to be revealed as a Dialga. I don't think we have quite enough HP at this point to reach 2 charge moves because we are a little bit slower than that Kyurem Black variant. In comes a Fusion Flare. It does obviously draw a shield here. Our opponent is going to farm us all the way down and have way too much energy for our Melmetal to take down. Once again, if I did have superpower, we might be in a bit of a better spot here. We get denied a Thunder Shock here on entry. Love to see that. Future Roar of Time rather does come through, does a massive amount of damage, or what if we didn't shield, it comes a double Iron Bash. Our opponent is likely going to no shield this attack, because if I had superpower, I probably would have thrown it at some point in this game. At this point, I just have to hope that I can land this Thunderbolt. It does do a bit more raw damage, and if this knocks them out, then maybe I can Thundershock down that Kyurem, but I think they're very close to a charge move, and because Thundershock is resisted, they are able to reach the attack, and we are barely going to lose this game, despite Melmetal honestly being triple strong against his whole team. Because of that, I think maybe superpower is going to be the play on Melmetal in the future. Next matchup, Melmetal in the lead up against the Kyurem White. Did we swap our movesets? Hopefully we did at this point. We are running Superpower right now, which is so much better in this matchup. In comes our charge move. Actually, we're going to build up a little bit more energy because if they're staying in this lead matchup, I would have to imagine they are a little bit soft to Melmetal in the backline. In comes a Fusion Flare. It does a massive amount of damage if I would have no shield of that, but thanks to our shield there, we are able to survive, go for a Superpower up against Necrozma, and it will be able to chip them down into a range where our own Palkia should be able to deal with it a little bit better. The thing is, I don't really have a hard answer to this Pokemon on this team, and I think this might be an Outrage, so I have to shield this up. And if it is Outrage, I can still outpace to 2 Aqua Tails and potentially get both shields back, depending on how they want to play it out. If they want to land the Outrage right now, which they are at this very moment, they have to double shield Palkia, win CMP. I have back-to-back Aqua Tails. Our opponent shields up that first attack, second one coming through right after on CMP. They have to shield at this point if they want to knock out our Palkia. Comes the Aquatail, and we do see a shield there. Outrage would one-shot us here, so at this point, we likely are going to lose our Palkia and have to use our Melmetal once again to whittle down this Pokemon. They actually swap out, though, to their Kyurem White, a Pokemon which is weak to both our Superpower and our Double Iron Bash. So I'm going to go for the Superpower here, and the second Superpower should be enough at this point to knock them out. You can just see how much more damage this attack does than that Double Iron Bash. It's able to easily knock out in 2 hits, and because of that, our Melmetal able to knock out a very Pokemon, and Superpower once again going to be thrown up against Rosebud. We are at like -2 attack, but I'm going to go for another superpower undercharge so I can get a bit of an energy lead with our Kyurem. Final Pokemon going to be revealed as a Dialga, not the bulky Dialga, it's actually Swishy Dialga, which means that this Fusion Flare, despite being non-stab, should do a massive amount of damage. Ice Fang is adding up, Fusion Flare comes through, basically knocks them out at this point. Ice Fang's doing way too much damage to them, and because they are forced to throw energy, we can come in with our Melmetal, go for either a Double Iron Bash or a Superpower to close out this endgame. Melmetal. At this point, they don't have another charge move. Double Iron Bash is going to be reached very quickly, and this should knock out the Steel type Pokemon. Despite being resisted, it is enough to take out the Dialga. GG's to our opponent there. Next game here, we're going to see a Kyurem in the lead. Kyurem White, obviously, though, with Ice Fang, going to have quite a bit of fashion pressure against us. We're using super effective Geomancy. They're using neutral Ice Fang, and somehow their damage is doing way more to us than we are to them, just with how insane Kyurem's attack stat is. It makes it so Fairy types are not even that good of a counter to this. In comes their first charge move, likely going to be there. I will have to shield this up, and I can likely reach another close combat in a second. But because that lowers our defense stat, I'm not sure I could get to a third charge move before the full fast move down is going to happen. Close combat is going to be thrown. Our opponent is likely going to shield this up. So I swap out to Palkia, and I'm going to start getting an energy lead to potentially land either a Spatial Rend or an Aqua Tail against whatever is going to come in. In comes a charge of Ice Burn, is going to get shielded up. That's a lot of energy down the drain for our opponent. They have the ABA Dragon lined up with a Dialga in the back line. While this is a decent matchup for Dialga, normally, since shields are down and I have an energy lead, this Spatial Rend is actually do quite a bit of damage to them here. And because I have a bit more energy than they might expect, Aqua Tail is going to be reached, knocking out all of this health and energy remaining on this Dialga. We win this matchup here, but what is our opponent's final Pokemon going to be? This is what you might expect to be a good matchup, since we have a Shadow Claw user in the back, but I know that either an Outrage, an Iron Head, a Sunsteel Strike, it would basically one-shot us here. Thankfully, though, we go for a catch. We get the catch on, what is it going to be? An Outrage. That's a ton of energy down the drain for our opponent. They come in with their Kyurem. They're able to Ice Fang us all the way down here. I'm going to be forced now to throw a charge against this Kyurem if I don't want to get knocked out by a charge move from them here. But I also know that the Necrozma is still pretty healthy at this point. I don't know if I can win this game. I think I might need to go for a free shock if I want any chance to knock this out. They're at 40% HP. Is this resistant charge move enough to knock out a steel type Pokemon? I throw it, I hope it is, and it just barely takes out the Necrozma. GG's to our opponent in that game. All right, next matchup here. This is actually going to be the final match of the stream. So I told my viewers at this point, just run both Kyurems. I want to see a double Kyurem against double Kyurem team. I ran Triple Dragon actually with a Dialga double Kyurem in the back line. And since they lead the white Kyurem, I know this matchup is actually pretty good for Dialga. All I need to do is shield once, tap them all the way down here, and I might be able to use this energy against whatever's going to come in to potentially draw shields from their backline Pokemon. They have their own Dialga, very smart pick in a double Kyurem team. In comes the Roar of Time. Our opponent is going to shield that up. I'm going to try my best at this point. These Dragon Breaths are not doing that much damage. Maybe I can reach another Roar of Time. We are able to barely reach it before we get knocked out by these fast moves, and it is going to end up landing, meaning that now we have a 2-on-1, two Kyurems against one. Which one is going to win here? We bring in our own Kyurem Black here to try to go for a Fusion Bolt. I know at this point, if they no-shield this attack, I can Ice Fang all the way down. If they shield this up, then I can land a larger charge move in the back line. Our opponent does end up going for a shield there. I no-shield. At this point, I know Kyurem White should be able to close out this game very easily. Free Shot does a ton of damage to us, but because these Ice Fangs are so powerful, their health is going down very quickly, and we can reach a Fusion Flare in just a second here. Comes another charge move from our opponent. In comes the free shot. Can I no shield that? I think I might have got knocked out. So it's a good thing we had that shield remaining. Our Dialga put in so much work this game. Fusion Flare comes through, knocking out the Kyurem Black and winning us the match there. GG's to our opponent. Very fun day of battles here using these different Kyurem forms. I know that they are a little bit hard to get your hands on if you didn't get a perfect. But as I said, the 15, 15, 14, 15, 14, 15 as well. Both variants of Kyurem White and Kyurem Black are both very viable, even if you don't have that Hundo. And these Pokemon, you kind of need them right now for Master League. They are incredibly powerful. So if you have them, make sure to use them. If you don't have them, make sure to counter them. Or maybe, honestly, just avoid Master League. You can see how powerful these Pokemon are. Power creep is such a really big problem in Master League. So, be careful if you don't have them. But they are also just a bunch of fun if you do. All right, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more content like this on the channel, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.